Hey everyone, Caleb with Antique Book Collective again, and I'm getting to you guys with the third part of the How I Turned $1,000 into $25,000 playlist. So this playlist, guys, again, it's just how I did this personally. It's not guaranteed to be what you get. You can get more, or if you don't put in the effort, if you don't put in the time of not just going to the place, not putting in the effort at the place, but also putting in the effort, looking it up, doing your homework there and learning all that stuff, and also looking up the books while you're there and all the other stuff like that, you're not guaranteed to do that sort of stuff. So again, I just want to caveat with that because I don't want to let people think that I'm promising them the world when I'm not. I'm not promising you anything. I'm just promising you the education that it takes to do this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it's up to you, the effort you put in, and how far you're willing to drive, honestly, because at the end of the day, as I said in the previous video, I'm willing to drive pretty stinking far to get the money that I get from my business. Of course, I don't always end up having to drive really far. Sometimes I can do it really local, but that's not really the case all the time. So with that said, though, guys, this video, it is running the numbers on how I do this sort of thing. It's really getting into the numbers of things because I know some people love the numbers. I know the numbers are what drives some people. For me personally, I love running the numbers for different businesses. Before I even get into a business, I am running the numbers to make sure that I can make X much money for my time. I am not interested in a business if I can only make, say, 5 cents an hour, when I know that other businesses that I've looked into or that I already do can make me a lot more than 5 cents an hour, you know. So with that said, though, guys, I got all my math written down here. Not all my math that I'll go through necessarily, but all the math that really matters for this video. So this video, guys, this is still about that one estate sale that I've mentioned in the other things. So this one estate sale, it was a better estate sale than a lot of the ones I end up going to. A lot of the estate sales that I go to, the people have like one shelf of books, whereas the really nice ones that I go to, the ones that I really make my money on, are ones that have shelf upon shelf upon shelf, hundreds or even thousands of books. If you guys really want to make, say, $1,000, if you really want to spend $1,000 to make $25,000, you will need to find an estate sale or a Friends of the Library sale. I find Friends of the Library sales have very good books, a lot of the same books that you'll find at estate sales, a lot of the same mix, but sometimes they just have a lot greater of a volume of books. So honestly, I would recommend finding a Friends of the Library sale. In addition to estate sales, for me, when I am sourcing for my business, I do like to look for both. I try to actually, when I'm doing those long driving trips, I try to plan them around the actual Friends of the Library sales, and then I will hit estate sales that are along the way or are in the city or something along those lines. That way I am guaranteeing basically that I will make money on this trip because I am tipping the odds in my scale. I'm in my favor, sorry. I'm weighting the scale there we go, in my favor. That way I am almost guaranteed to make money. And in fact, I've never gone on one of these long book buying trips and not made money. But again, it's because I do the research ahead of time to know at least how much money I can make. So again, guys, when you are looking for this sort of stuff, be sure you're finding a place that has thousands and thousands of books. I find that 4,000 is usually about the minimum of what I like to look for if I'm going to want to spend $1,000 or more at a sale and be making back $25,000 more or more from this sale. So with that said, again, this shelf right here, that's not 1,000 books. This shelf, I think, might represent maybe $4,000 worth of books, but that's just because it's some of the nicer books that I have, and some of my favorite books as well that I've just enjoyed showing off to you guys as I'm doing this channel. I think those are really pretty ones. Of course, I have a lot of books that aren't so pretty but are still worth a lot of money, and I have a whole lot of ones that are actually, some of them are even prettier than those, but they're just not on display. So with that said, though, guys, the numbers, I'm going to get into the numbers now for this entire sort of thing. So guys, again, these numbers are based off of this one estate sale that I went to, which is what this playlist is sort of about. Again, this one playlist is about one estate sale that I went to that I spent about $1,000, and I will be making back, based on the numbers that I've already run, about $25,000. And these numbers are not just numbers that I ripped out of thin air. I have actually, this is 3 months after I did this estate sale that this is all about. I wanted to wait for 3 months. That way I could get sales figures off of that estate sale and have actual solid numbers for you guys, for me to base off of for this entire playlist. So with that said, though, guys, I bought about $1,000 from this $1,000 worth of his books at this estate sale. That represented about 1,000 books, and I have only listed about 300 of those books so far. I have just been busy with all the other businesses that I run, so I haven't been able to list all the books just yet. And because I haven't been able to get to it, because I didn't list them all at once, the sales that I've had are sort of sprinkled throughout all my other sales that I've been having. So I had to go through my sales figures. I had to go through all that and find the ones that I bought at this one estate sale, and I compiled that sort of thing. So with that said though, guys, 300 books listed, and of those 300 books, I have sold 63 of those books that have been listed. So 63 sales, that represents almost a quarter of the books that I have listed have already sold, which is actually a pretty good number. Again, guys, that's over a 3-month period, and in that 3-month period, I did not list those 300 on the first day. I've done listings over the 3 months. Some of those books sold overnight, some of those books sold within a couple of days, some of them in a week, and some of them are still sitting. In fact, 75% of the books have not sold yet, and that's of the 300 I've already listed. The remaining 700 books that I have, which are sitting basically in beautiful piles over there, those have yet to be listed. I still have yet to get to them, so obviously I don't have sales figures on those since they haven't sold, but these figures, again, guys, are just based on a random selection of books that I have already listed. I didn't pull out the nice fancy ones. In fact, if I did pull out the fancy ones, my average sales price would be a lot more than $25. The best books that I've sold from this one estate sale are over $100 a piece. And again, guys, I paid $1 per book for a lot of those. However, I did spend $5 per book on a couple of those because of this particular sale, because of how they ran this particular sale. By and large, as I said in previous videos, I don't like spending that much per book, but I do it every now and then, especially if I drove all the way out there and see that I'm not going to be able to negotiate. I'm not going to drive all the way back and admit defeat. I will buy the books that I am at least confident I will make my money back on. And another thing that I'm going to caveat with this on these sales figures, guys, is when I went to this sale, I did not have cell phone data, I did not have internet access, so I could not look these books up while I was doing this. This is not something I recommend you guys do if you are brand new to the business. For me, I was confident that I could do it because I've been doing it for a few years, so I knew which books would be worth a little bit more. And in addition to that, I have actually been buying a whole lot more books than usual. I've been buying books that I know won't make as much money as I'd like, just because I am trying to get my sales figures up so I can get a little bit more money, because I'm trying to raise a little bit more money for another business that I'm doing some work for. So with that said though, guys, because I was not able to look up these books, I've actually had several of the books that I've listed from this sale that were worth like $7, which is the bottom end of what I was pricing for these books. I didn't want to go below that because since I paid $5 for some of the books, it didn't feel right to take a loss on any book. I don't take losses on books. That's not something I do. I would rather sit on a book for the rest of my life than admit defeat and lose. With that said though, guys, not necessarily what I recommend anyone does. I'm just strong-headed. My last name actually partially comes from my family's strong-headedness, our stubbornness, that sort of thing. So with that said though, let me just think really quick about something. Okay, so with that said though, guys, because I did have a $7 floor on these books that I'm listing, that is obviously a whole lot less than what I like as my $25 floor on the absolute bottom of things. But again, that's just because I could not look these books up as I was doing it. Again, I do not recommend you do this if you are brand new to the business. This was just sort of a extraneous factors going in, and for me, I live out west. I live in the western United States, Oregon to be specific. There's a lot of dead areas for our cell phones, for our internet, that sort of stuff. So it's not something I'm totally not something that's totally alien to me. So with that said though, guys, 63 sales is what I've had already from those 300 books that have sold. That is 25% of those books that have been listed. Of those books, my average sales price has been $24.58. So let's just say $25 for easy math. And of those 63 sales, that represented $1,548.54. So that is almost $1,600, or you can round down to $1,500, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. But with that said, average sales price, again, was $1,750, and average sales price was $24.58, and that average profit was about $17.50. $17.50, that does factor in eBay fees. That does factor in about how much I paid for the books. It factors in how much I pay for my boxes, my paper, all that sort of stuff. It does not factor in my time. It does not factor in employee wages. I don't have employees, so it obviously doesn't factor that in. But if you guys do have employees, that is something you ought to factor in, that sort of stuff. But just for easy math, let's just look at this really quick. So 63 sales, and then we are going to multiply 63 by 1750, which ends up being $1,102.50, which is pretty nice. That would be what I profit per book. For me, that I do my taxes, and I like to, for my accounting sort of thing, I like to have it so my actual cost of sale is the actual cost of that book. So it does end up becoming quite a few line items on my taxes because I do it that way. I don't do the average cost of sales, that sort of stuff. But that way I can sort of guarantee that I make money on every single book. I can sort of have on paper that I make money on every single book. That's just something that I like to sort of keep track of for myself. But with that said, 1750 profit, that is actually an average of the $1 books and the $5 books put together based on how many books those were based on the sales, that sort of stuff. Sort of boring math there. But with that said, though, guys, this sort of profit is pretty easy for me to achieve. As I said, I did this without even looking these books up. When I went to this place, I didn't just clear out every single shelf. I did have a lot of selectiveness in the books that I cleared out. I was like, okay, this one I know is worth this much, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I see these books here, I'll just take all of those. I was selective on those books that I was buying. I was quite selective, in fact. I would say that I only walked away on the high end with a third of the books that these people had, and on the lower end, more accurate end probably, I probably only bought a quarter of the books at this sale. A quarter of the books, or a third of the books, that is still quite a lot of books from any sale to begin with. And again, I bought a whole lot more books just because I wanted to sort of get more books on my store, get my revenues up, that sort of stuff. But if you guys are doing this, if you are being as selective as I would normally be, you'd probably walk away with about 10% of the books. And that is a pretty strong number. I think I actually ran the numbers once, and it was 14% is what my average was of, if they say there's this many books, I walk away with about 14% of that. That's sort of what I found. And then when I raised my floor last year or so to $45, I found that cut it down to about 6 to 8%, I'd say, of how many books that I'd walk away from for sale. So let's say easy numbers. Let's say there's 1,000 books at a sale. So 14% would be 140 books. 8% would be 80 books, that sort of stuff. Really simple math there. But if you guys do want to do this business, you should run the numbers eventually yourself. I find that running numbers too much doesn't help to anyone, but running enough numbers that you know what's going on is definitely helpful. So with all that said, though, guys, I do want to say that the numbers that I gave you guys for sales prices, that does not include shipping. For me, I charge the buyers shipping on top of all the prices that I charge for my books. So if I'm charging $7 for a book, it's $7 plus shipping. Let's just say the book is 2 pounds, which I find is a good average. That's about $4 shipping. And then I actually charge a little bit of a handling fee on top of that, which just helps. So eBay, caveat right here, eBay, they actually started charging sellers fees on the shipping. So if you're paying $4 for shipping, you actually have to pay an eBay fee on the $4 you pay for shipping. So I ended up adding a handling fee on top of that just to cover the fees that I have to pay there. Plus, it also helps cover the box, that sort of stuff, to help ensure that I make money on my books. But with that said, though, guys, those are just some of the numbers that I did for this sale. And I do want to say something else. So at this particular sale that I went to, guys, I'd say there was around 4,000 books. So me buying 1,000 books does end up being a quarter. I didn't actually count how many books there were. Honestly, I maybe should have gotten an estimate on how many there were, but I'd say 4,000 is pretty close to what it'd be, between 3,000 and 4,000 probably. So again, I walked away with about 1,000 books. So math-wise, that's between a quarter and a third, because it's between 3,000 and 4,000. But that is, again, on the higher end of what I normally higher end of what I normally buy at sales. A lot of the sales that I go to, like Friends of the Library sales, again, I normally buy about 14, 15%, somewhere in there, of the books that they have. Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less. It really depends on what they have at these sales. Something that I say in other videos is when I'm looking at estate sales, Friends of Library sales, I look at what they say they have. If they say they have over half of the books as hardcover books, I know that there are going to be more antique books, more vintage books mixed in there, which are my bread and butter. They are what I look for. They are what I make a lot of my money on. And obviously, as I said already, I used to sell my books. My average sales price used to be $75. This sales price, for the numbers I've already told you, they are a little jaded towards the downside because I did buy a lot of books that are only worth, say, $7, $10, $15, that sort of stuff. Personally, I do not like selling books under $15 whatsoever because the buyers are a little insane in the membrane sometimes. Like, some of them will ask you 105 questions about a book and then not buy the book. So for me, it's just not worth my time invested because of all those questions that I have to go through. It's not worth my time to sell these books because I end up putting, say, an extra hour into this book, and my time is worth a whole lot more than $15 an hour. In fact, I've said this in other videos, I find that my average wage that I would make if I was paying myself hourly, would be about $100 per hour because my business itself, when I am working, is well over $100 worth of profits every single hour that I end up working. So because of that, I'm not too interested in $15 books because, again, those can be a whole lot more work than what they are worth a lot of the time for me. So I don't like using those, selling those at all, but I did for this case because, again, I wasn't able to look everything up when I was buying them. I still listed them because I don't like taking a loss on books, but that is something to keep in mind. So, of course, you guys need to sort of figure out what you want to make hourly, that sort of stuff. If you only want to make $15 an hour, yeah, you can totally buy the books that are $15 and up. Of course, you probably will end up making a little bit more than that per hour, but then you have to factor in taxes, all these sorts of things. But that's just stuff that you guys need to run your numbers for yourself, stuff that you need to think about yourself. If you guys have any questions, be sure to ask them below. I make sure to answer all the questions that I can. Of course, once this channel has 5 million, billion, trillion subscribers, I might not be able to do that, but it's probably going to be a little bit of time before I hit a few trillion subscribers, right? A little joke because there's not that many people. But with that said, though, guys, I hope this video was helpful. I hope this playlist was helpful. I might be making more videos for this playlist in the future. Honestly, I just wanted to sort of parse things out as well as I could. First video, of course, was how I consistently turn $1,000 into $25,000. Next video was how I find those different sales, and then this video was the numbers behind that. There is, of course, other things that you should factor into that you should put into play when you are running these numbers. You should think about, okay, what kind of books am I going to find? What kind of books have I found already? Of course, what I find at sales is not guaranteed to be what you guys find. I've had quite a few subscribers who have had success stories that have found so much better books than what I get. I'm a little bit jealous of you guys that have those amazing finds. Like, come on, man, cut me in on some of this. Like, you made $5 million on that? I will take a $5 fee or something. I don't know. I'm making a joke there. I don't actually want any of you guys' money off of that. But I do find a lot of people do a whole lot better than what I do. And again, that's because of where I live. There's not as many antique books. There's not the history of people here that will have generations of books here. The books that arrived here, I mean, if you have antique books, they either someone brought them here within the last 100 years, or they arrived in Oregon on a wagon across the Oregon Trail, or they arrived here off of a boat that went across the, not even through the Panama Canal, but all the way down under South America, all the way back up. It's pretty hard to get books here that have been here for a long time. A lot of the books that I find that are antiques probably were not brought here on wagon. A couple of them might have been, but most of them probably, guys, have come over the past 100 years. But if you guys have places that are say, London, that have been inhabited by people that use books for 1,000 years plus, you're going to have a lot more antique books than what I have. You're going to probably have a lot more valuable books than what I have as well. In fact, the stories that how the internet shares different stories with you sometimes. Stories that I see about what people find in Europe with just doing home renovations. I'm just boy, I am so jealous. If I did a home renovation here and found something that was left here by the builder, it'd be 100 years old tops. It's I'm jealous of you guys. But with that said, though, guys, you might not get as good of stuff as what some of these people are getting. You might not get as good of stuff as what I get. $25 might not be your average sales price. If you run your business like I recommend, it's probably going to be a whole lot more than 25, but of course, some people don't do it. Some people will sell more cookbooks, more mass market paperback books that aren't worth as much. Some people will not heed any of my advice, do it totally their own way, totally crash and burn, and then yell at me and be mad at me, but that's on them, honestly. If you guys do it how I do it, you're going to probably succeed. Your chances of success are a lot higher. I've been doing this business for years now, literally years, like this is the first business I started right out of high school. Since I've been doing it for years, I have tested a whole lot of different things. And no, I don't do every single niche under the sun. In fact, I don't touch magazines anymore. I don't touch comic books whatsoever. I don't touch this, and this. And that is just because of either personal preference or I just don't see the profits, returns, multiples that I like to see. If it is a good multiple still, it might not be enough dollars for me to think that it's worth my time, that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, you can mix and match a little bit of what I do, but totally going off base and totally doing your own thing, you're sort of on your own at that point. I can't guarantee that you will have success, that sort of stuff. And in addition to that, I can't really help you if you go out on your own and want to ask questions, because if you totally go out and do something totally different than what I do, I don't have experience there. I might have some experience with some things, but I don't try everything under the sun anymore. I'm an old man, But with that said, though, guys, I hope these videos were able to help. I hope this playlist was able to help. Honestly, I hope a lot of you guys can hop in on this business. I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm selling a class on how to do it for $1,500 today only, which I'm not. I actually have all the information you need to run this business all available on YouTube. Just check out my channel, that sort of stuff. You can subscribe, cough, cough. Please subscribe and like and that stuff. But it's all available here. You guys can totally do this. I find it's a very accessible business. I don't think, from my experience, I don't think you need to be an expert to do it. I don't think you need to be an expert to sell antique books. Let me say it again. You do not need to be an expert before you do this, because I started this business not as an expert. A kid fresh out of high school probably is not an expert on antique books, and now I have a YouTube channel and people say I'm an expert. Personally, I don't think I'm an expert just yet, and not only because humility, but because I really am not an expert, guys. There are so many things I don't know. But with that said, though, guys, there's a lot that you can learn on your own. There's a lot of money that can be made, and I would love to hear you guys' success stories as well with your business. So with all that said and done, though, guys, please be sure to check out one of my other videos. It does help me. Please be sure to subscribe. That helps me as well. Drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.